Hey, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Whenever you may be watching, listening, or consuming this podcast in any way that you are, I am happy you're here and very excited to present my first ever podcast episode. In this episode, I interview Mayor G. He is in charge of many successful Jewish brands. So we chose to record in Nachlaot, a beautiful architectural neighborhood in Jerusalem that is related to his brand as well, that has to do with the beautiful city of Jerusalem and Judaism. So I'm happy you're here, excited to show you guys what I've cooked up so far. And I'm still learning how to do this, but very happy to be here. And I hope you enjoy watching me put my idea into reality.
Welcome to my hood.
Oh, thank you.
I'm the mayor of Jerusalem.
Great to be here. Yeah, I'm very excited to do this with you.
Yes.
And thank you for everything you've done to help me so far in this, but also you helped me like since the moment I got to Israel, which I really appreciate. And I say it genuinely. So I'm very happy that Leon put us in contact. And yeah, I mean, from the moment I arrived, you helped me with jobs. You helped me before I made Aliyah. When my Aliyah advisor wasn't answering me, you nudged her and helped me yourself, which I really appreciate. And even like arriving to your house today, and just sitting down with like you and your roommates, and I mentioned I'm in between jobs, and they're like jumping to help me. I really appreciate that.
Of course.
And it's one of the reasons I look up to you. Sucks that I didn't get introduced to you earlier, but I'm very happy to have you on as the first guest. Oh, and we have the same shoes. Look at that.
Nice.
Unplanned. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, bro, it's my pleasure. It's not just because I work at Nefesh B'Nefesh, of course, and it's not just because you're Leon's brother. I think it's just a very Jewish thing. That's one of the reasons why Jews have been so successful, is because we look out for each other.
I agree.
It's not some malicious, evil plot. We just care. We actually care about each other. Yeah. And we also care about the world. And, sometimes a little bit less than other times. But, that's the... People are wondering what's the Jewish secret for success. It's the care that we show for one another. And, that's what's going to bring a better world, Yeah. So, B'ezrat Hashem.
And it's one of the things that I actually love most recently of like post October 7th. Seeing everyone come together is beautiful. Seeing people coming like from outside of Israel and helping. How many people have made Aliyah since October 7th, when the country is like technically more dangerous or however, some people want to paint it. I love seeing that. And it's one of the reasons that I moved here.
Right.
On the subject of Judaism, I want to highlight you, and I wrote down your numbers, and you'll tell me if I'm missing anything. But your personal Instagram, or we'll start with Jewish Original Media.
Yes.
Jewish Original.media, almost 1.9 thousand followers on Instagram, almost 500 subscribers on YouTube. I saw the YouTube channel; that looks nice.
Slowly.
2.tall.jew show. Almost 1.6K followers. Amazing. 6.1K followers on your personal Instagram. That's unreal. And the biggest, to my knowledge, project of yours on this day in Jewish history. No double H in between just Jewish and history. Jewish
is history.
Jewish is history.
Jewish history.
29.6K followers.
29.7 after today, yeah. By the time they watch this, hopefully 30.
Yeah.
Hopefully 30,
it's gonna
maybe
keep growing.
Even more. But
it's going to keep growing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We just completed 4 years. I like how you started with the small numbers first, only moving up.
When I looked it up, I saw on this day in Jewish history first.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait, this like kind of doesn't look good. Let me flip the numbers around. Yeah.
There's a big discrepancy because I mean, when the page started, it was just on this day in Jewish history. And then a few months in, which for the followers that don't know, it's a Jewish history page where for the first 2 years, we made a post every single day of something that happened on that day, sometimes more than one thing. It's crazy how much I've learned just by making this content, by coordinating this content. We've had a lot of interns. We've had a lot of people help us out throughout the 4 years. And the project has evolved. In the beginning, it was just like a COVID thing. Bored, reading a lot of Jewish history, and I called my friend Isaac Simon, the tallest Jew, and that's his Instagram name. I called him, and it was just like a fun thing to do when we had nothing else going on.
Right.
And then, without even realizing, it became like a company, and we started a podcast called The Two Tall Jews.
How long after you?
About like 2 months in.
Okay.
And in the beginning, it was just us, but nobody was listening, so we started having interviews. And even then, very little people were listening. But it's okay. We would have guests, and sometimes if the guest was more famous, we would have a lot more listeners. Sometimes the clips would do really well, and the episodes not so well. At the end of the day, it was just a place for us, and it still is a place for us to sit with an hour with a really special, unique, smart person that will, answer questions and schmooze, kind of like we're doing now.
Yeah.
And for me, even though sometimes episodes wouldn't do so well, it didn't really matter. It was just about having that one-on-one moment where you could really get a little bit more out of the person.
Right.
And then once we realized, okay, so we have this Jewish history thing, we have the podcast, and we also have dreams and goals about what we want to do here. It's about Jewish education. It's about inspiring Jewish minds to understand that, like, history didn't start in 1948. It didn't start in 1939. And even though those are very pivotal years in Jewish history, and sometimes it's the only years that Jews know in Jewish history. That's some street action here, in case you're hearing some children. That's the beauty of Nachlaot and the beauty of recording in the street.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
I hope we hit record.
Should I check?
Yeah, just check real quick.
Just to make sure, but I think we probably did. Yeah, we're recording. Okay. We're recording.
So we realized, okay, so we have this thing, and one of our goals, one of our dreams that we're slowly building is a community, a Jewish community, an online Jewish community, which we're slowly doing now. We're having online events. We have goals to create sort of like a Jewish education hub created by creators. But I feel like we're not seeing so much progress right now. Slowly but surely, we're not giving up. And for me, at the end of the day, it's about that one post that does really well, or that one interview that did really well, that people did really well, meaning it made an impact, and people are replying and commenting and messaging us about it.
Yeah.
And not getting so caught up in the moments that it's not working, or in the moments that no one's showing up to our online events, and because it's not about that. It's about the bigger picture, and it's day by day.
Right. And have you kind of like evolved your goal in a way? Like, did you have a certain vision when you started it? Obviously it's evolved, but in terms of how you measure success, maybe has it changed throughout this journey? Maybe before you were like, I need to have this amount of people liking it or attending the events for me to feel like I'm doing a good job, and maybe now you measure it differently.
I think so. It's a good question. I think it's hard to measure it only on likes and attendees, because, maybe it was a timing thing, or maybe it was just like, not enough marketing went around it.
Right.
So it's a lot of plug and play, a lot of testing, a lot of, there's gonna be a ton of times where like it just flops, and if it keeps happening, then you understand, okay, so maybe we have to change how we're approaching it. We have to change what time we're starting to promote this, how far in advance we're starting to promote this, who are we bringing on? Maybe that's not compelling enough.
Right.
And then over time, you start to realize, okay, this is what works. We just had an interview with Adiel Cohen for Yom HaZikaron.
Nice.
And we've been playing a little bit with like live streaming, Streamlabs to go on YouTube and X. And now we finally fixed Instagram. For that one, I'm like, we had a lot of technical issues with this thing, with going on live on Instagram. I just want to, he has a big platform on Instagram. I want to go directly on live on Instagram. So I'm like, let's do it. The video has like over 10,000 plays for a live.
Yeah.
So to recognizing like, this is a person with a big platform. We also have a solid platform.
Solid, just almost 30K.
He's got like 50 or 60. So
okay,
he doubles us up, and and he gets a lot of engagement. A lot of engagement. We have our engagement is not so high these days. It comes and goes. You know, sometimes I feel like we're shadow banned, but like
Probably, honestly.
no, I checked, but like I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
Sometimes the things just
Yeah.
disappear in the algorithm.
I was surprised, I'll tell you what. Obviously, since like I know you on a personal level, and then I was looking up your pages, and I was looking up on this day in Jewish history, and I was surprised how many people that I know also follow it that like don't even know you personally. Obviously, that like speaks to a whole different level.
Right.
You
That's
know?
always fun when I meet someone and then the conversation gets to the point and then they're like, oh, let me check it out. And then they're like, oh, I already follow it.
Yeah, I
So
mentioned to
it's
some
nice.
friends that I was speaking to the guy from On This Dangerous History, and I'm like, yeah, look it up.
You
like,
can call it On This Day in Jewish History, brother.
no, I know.
You're
But I find it
confused
funny.
people.
I find it funny.
Yeah, you're gonna confuse
but-
people.
But yeah, so like the amount of people that I told that I was like gonna speak to,
Mhm.
and then I'm like, look it up on your Instagram. I wonder if you follow them, and like a lot of them did,
Hmm.
which is cool.
Thank you. Thank you to the
yeah.
people that already followed.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I want to take a step back and also like ask you to take us through the journey of. So you started On This Day in Jewish History first,
Mhm.
and then Jewish Original Media.
Right. So Isaac and I realized we have all these different things going on, and we want to create an umbrella brand so that if one day we have this hub, this creator hub, which, you know, Baruch Hashem, we finally have a good website. We brought on a different guy. His name is Andy Katz, who's been working now with us for over 2 years. He built our website. He's building our community. He does our emails. A lot of stuff that, you know, once you're growing and also have a full-time job, I simply can't do it.
Right.
Also, thank God we've been helped by the World Jewish Congress, who've been giving us money for the last. This is the 3rd year.
Amazing.
They're giving us like a grant through the Next Gen Inc. It's like an incubator program, and they've been super helpful and super like attentive in a lot of different ways. We honestly couldn't get to this point without them, and we realized, okay, so like, if we're going to create this thing, it can't be called On This Day in Jewish History, because On This Day in Jewish History is very specific. We want to call it a product. It's Jewish education. It's online. We're also on Twitter as Daily Jewish. That's our Twitter handle. Just because it's too long on Twitter. On X, you have to have shorter handles.
Right.
So I found Daily Jewish, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
Works.
So the name is On This Day in Jewish History, but the handle is Daily Jewish.
You get more engagement or less, or
on Twitter?
Yeah, or about
it's pretty good. We've grown. We have a guy. He's a kid who was making content from Colombia. Also, he had a Twitter page, and I hit him up, and he's been doing it honestly by himself for like a little over 2 years.
Amazing.
He's been growing the page by himself. Sometimes I go in and I'll make a Twitter post, but he basically has been doing it by himself. We got him a little gift. God willing, these are some people that like have shown commitment to the page because they believe in the mission and the passion. And God willing, one day when we have money, I want to hire these people. Like I want to actually bring them on. I know right now what I know, and I know I need a social media manager.
100%.
And so right now we're working to either get some sponsorship or get some funding in some way. So that we wanted that to come in through a channel that made more sense as an umbrella. Right. So that's where Jewish Original Media sort of was born. And so if you look at it as like an org chart, Jewish Original Media is at the top, and then you have On This Day in Jewish History, the Two Tall Jews. We have our community, which runs through JOM, Jewish Original Media, and people can join for free. People can join and pay a certain amount per month or yearly.
I saw the different subscription plans.
And we're working to create events. And it's been a slow growth process up until right now, as of this recording in May 2024. I have to say these things because I have no idea when this is going to come out.
Let's see how much I procrastinate.
Yeah. So if you're watching this and you follow me and you want to participate in this mission, please send me a message.
Subscriptions might have gone up. There might not be a free subscription anymore.
No, it always will be free.
Yeah. So the Jewish Media on Twitter, is it the same exact post as the Instagram?
No. Sometimes it is.
Yeah. Like there are some that are the same, but your friend from Colombia also does.
He'll make a thread or he'll repost something that we did last year in case he can. Like he'll just retweet it. Okay. And so it'll come back to the feed. It's not so good for the algorithm, but he does what he can, and we appreciate all the work that he does for us because we haven't paid him. He's been like an awesome volunteer. The first summer, we it was every day Isaac and I would wake up and we would Google like what happened today in Jewish history. And so there's a few blogs. Aish has a blog. The OU has a blog. We found this crazy Google blog that you could only access the day of. So I couldn't look at what happened yesterday or tomorrow. I could only see what happened today. And this guy had like from like the most important events, like for example, Kristallnacht. And then he would have like, and that right next to it, like some random Jew buys land in like New Zealand or something. It's just like he had like the randomest events.
That's crazy.
And so we call it the basement blog.
Right.
So we'd be like, oh, check the basement and see if there's anything. We actually owe a lot of gratitude to that guy, whoever it is. It's like a Google blog. So we would search every single day for something relevant, something important, and realized we were scrapping and we were like really enjoying the process, but it was becoming really intense to do it every day and to not really know what was coming.
Yeah, to not be able to plan ahead.
Not be able to plan, not have a content calendar. It was just like every day was just like, and we wanted to do it. No part of it was saying like, oh, I actually don't really feel like doing this. Like we actually felt like a crazy drive to just keep doing it. And I remember, so we started May 2020, Lag BaOmer. That was our first On This Day.
Oh, wow.
Coincidentally, our first, the On This Day of On This Day is Lag BaOmer. So it's always special to like have that, symbolically lighting the fire. And
yeah, it's been
really cool.
So it's been like 4 years
Exactly.
and a day. Exactly.
Yeah, 4 years. And yeah.
Wow.
We just celebrated that. And so that summer going into, I think it was like around the end of June of that year, I'm like, bro, if we want to keep doing this, we're going to need help. And obviously we don't have money. So let's make an Instagram post and let's see if anyone wants to volunteer to help us build a content calendar, to help us find and research and create posts. And so I literally just went on Canva. I wrote like seeking volunteers, research assistants. That's what it is. It's a research assistant. We sought after research assistants and social media managers.
Okay.
And bro, we heard back. I didn't even put any ad. I didn't put money into it. I shared it on Instagram, and we started getting tons of emails.
Really?
From college kids, Jewish college kids, and some high school kids, which I learned not to work with because unfortunately they're just not mature enough to understand what it means to work in a startup mentality.
To be dependable and consistent. I can imagine.
And we found some really good people, and we found some people that we could really depend on, and a few that we unfortunately couldn't. We drafted like very simple volunteer agreements to understand. We promised them a letter of recommendation, and if they wanted us to recognize their hours for community service or volunteer hours, we were willing to like sign that officially. And at this point, it was still just On This Day in Jewish history, and then the podcast emerged in the middle of that. They helped us build, which is like our biggest piece of content that is back end. It's a massive Excel sheet that has almost every day of the year and every month divided. So the months are on the bottom of the sheet and the days are on the y-axis. And we started building that calendar because we used to have it on a Google Calendar. Isaac and I started adding a million things to a Google Calendar, but it was just like it's not very practical for what we wanted to do. We wanted to be able to plug and play, be able to copy and paste easily, be able to add and edit. And so we started building this massive Excel sheet, and with those first batch of interns. So each one was responsible, or two of them were responsible for filling out a month. And they had to basically transfer everything that we had put into the Google Calendar into the Excel sheet.
Okay.
And that Excel sheet, we've been adding to it. I check it out multiple times a week. It's something that people ask me, how do you know what's happening? It's because we built this content calendar. And after the first year, we had a year's worth of content.
Nice.
So
and up until now, it's been all organic growth, or you have paid for ads?
We've done some paid ads.
Okay.
We eventually opened up a merch store. So
right.
We paid ads for that. We paid ads to promote the community. We've done ads for individual posts when we felt like maybe we should boost it just to test it to see what it's like. But it's mostly organic.
Wow.
Our budget now, we're putting a little bit aside for ads, especially for the website, Google ads, just to get more traffic. We're also bringing a lot of the content from our Excel or from the Instagram onto the website, so it's easier to search. Because Instagram is our number one platform, but you can't really search on a page. I can't go on Instagram and search, for anything in the Holocaust, or whatever,
or even
about
by
Israel,
day, like by Jewish calendar day,
you have to scroll and find it.
Right?
Twitter has a search feature.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why Instagram doesn't. And so we need a website, and so we have it on our website. And now, God willing, by the time this comes out, hopefully it'll be launched. We're doing a content calendar, like a geo timeline with a map and with tags and with links to all of our content as a website with the World Jewish Congress. We're calling it the
Nice.
Jewish History Geo Timeline.
Nice.
And it's been like literally 3 years in the making. A lot of work in the last year of editing a lot of our content, realizing how much of it needed editing, how much of it needed to have proper.
So
yeah.
so it's going to be from your website and then hyperlinks to specific Instagram posts?
No, it'll be on the website. It'll be hosted by the World Jewish Congress, and it's going to be co-branded.
Okay.
And we'll link to it from our website, but it's going to be hosted by them.
Right.
And it's going to have, basically, you're going to be able to go into the Holocaust category, and then you'll be able to search by year. So if you want to find something that happened in 1941 in a certain region, then you'll be able to search
very
exactly
specific.
that.
Wow, very cool.
And our initial dream was like Google Earth for Jewish history, and it's very complex. Google Earth is it's a massive coding like venture. So we had to like lower our expectations. We created a 2D map.
Dope.
And I think the most important thing is the search feature, the ability to search and to have a real resource. And because Instagram, you're fighting for attention, and
right.
And again, you can't search. So, yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And we're just on a very like technical business side of the conversation.
I like it. It's good.
But I also wanted to ask, and I didn't even think to ask this before, but I just remembered it when you like started talking about, the first the media company. And I remember you speaking with my brother and telling him that you wanted to do like Barstool for Jews, right? Were those your words or his words?
No, I definitely use that. That was the dream. I mean, it's still a part of the dream of this hub of creators, of like a place where basically all these different creators are doing a really good job. Can kind of come together, and you see different podcast networks like Living L'Chaim has a podcast network, and Jewish Unpacked has a really good podcast network. And I know that specifically Jewish Unpacked is trying to start something similar to what I'm mentioning.
Dope. I'm honestly really unfamiliar in this space, but I'll look these things up because it sounds very interesting. And you sent me one of your episodes like before on the way here, and it was cool. And I'm sorry for not listening more. I'll give you more listens. I'll give you more streams. Yeah. And nice.
Yeah. So I think that's been put a little bit on the back end because there's a lot of our own growth that we need to work through and continue to build what we're building before we start creating this whole new product. We also have a dream of making Jewish education curriculum for gap year programs and for schools, and to be able to apply what we've learned, not just the Jewish history aspect, but also like how do you talk about it online? How do you make a social media post about it? Yeah. I think that for me, that would be the most amazing thing to actually see through, because it seems like a real impact there. And so slowly but surely, I think that will come with time and with a little bit of money.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. What I hate sometimes is like, since I only have Jewish friends, I grew up in a Jewish community, I feel like when I post things on social media, when I repost things, which I do often, I feel like it's just an echo chamber. And I get like slightly frustrated when I know I have friends that have non-Jewish friends or non-Zionist friends that don't post as much. I know I really have no right to be like upset, but it does annoy me a little bit, because the same way that like these anti-Israel people, anti-Semitic people are posting to their echo chamber with not much, let's say like substance, with not much cause and effect. You're not changing anyone's opinion. I feel like I'm doing the same thing in a way.
Well, it's definitely true. We have echo chambers. I also think that some of the people in your echo chamber maybe need a reminder. Living in Israel now since October 7th, even people here, it's like the war's still going on. These things are still happening. There's still hostages. there's still something, the North literally get rockets every single day, and nobody talks about it. In the same way that, as of this recording, yesterday there were rockets in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, first
It's
time
a
in 4
problem.
months. Yep.
But there's been rockets every single day to the north, and there's a lot of communities in the north that are completely evacuated.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of Jews need to continue to remember that. So even
I
if it's
agree
an echo
100%.
chamber, there's a certain benefit
Mhm.
to talking to the echo chamber, because they need to be reminded.
Yeah, and
In the right amount. You also don't want to be like, okay.
yeah, of
like,
course. But to that point, I actually agree, because once in a while I'll get like a reply to my story of like the one kid who happens to be Jewish but isn't really practicing, and he'll DM me and say, "Hey, thank you. Like,
Mhm.
I didn't know this, or I did know this, but like I'm, excited to share this with my friends." So
Right.
I think that's why I keep posting. I mean, obviously I think about it every day, about the current situation in Israel, and anti-Semitism, and Jewish pride. I think it's all very important. But yeah, the echo chamber is definitely something I like have thought about, and I've discussed it with friends as well. It works both ways. Has has your brand been impacted since October 7th?
Yeah.
And how so?
The first few weeks it was crazy engagement. It was just so interesting.
Positive.
Positive.
From like the okay.
Yeah, I was seeing a lot more story views, a lot more likes,
Mm-hmm.
a lot more plays.
There we go. On the same like wavelength of like all these Jews and all these outside people coming to help.
Right.
I think it's the same.
Right. It's unfortunate that we need something terrible to happen in order for that to be the case, but at the same time, like, I just hope that these people are also hanging out on my page and watching my stories when I share Torah on Fridays.
Yeah.
Because that's something we've been doing for for a while now. I select Fridays to do Torah stories. If we're gonna share about something that happened on that day, we're still gonna do it. I'll try to mix and match. For me, that's how you come. And the term combat anti-Semitism doesn't even make any sense to me, because it's out of our control. It's like you're trying to fight a boogeyman. This thing is a virus that survives everything. Hashem already told us it's going to happen. We say it every single year on Pesach, that in every generation they're going to rise up. That's what's happening. So it's like, that's why I think it's almost, I don't want to say comical, but it's like when people say, shocking events. What is so shocking? 6 million people died, and this is shocking to you? They've been talking about this. They've been saying this. When it says in Torah, when someone says it's going to kill you, you have to believe them. So you should rise up and kill them first. And that's how you fight a war halachically. A lot of these problems that we have today wouldn't have happened if we fought this war according to the Torah. But we don't want to do that because it's politically incorrect. And somebody will watch this and say, "Oh, I'm an extremist for saying that."
Yeah. Well, what sucks is that even though we don't strike first, it's like we still get the short end of the stick.
Whenever we've struck first, we always win. The war, the 6-day war, was a miracle. It actually was a miracle. Like, they don't even study it in military schools because it was so out of this world. Didn't make any sense. In 6 days, it wasn't just the armies that surrounded Israel, but there are a lot of proxy armies that joined. In 6 days, the war was over. Because before the war even started, Israel attacked the Egyptian Air Force and almost destroyed it completely while it was still on the ground. And in 1973, they knew what was about to happen, and they ignored the warnings. But because the U.S. told them not to attack first.
Right.
And listen, there's a lot of ways that you could say the Torah is, some people might say it's an outdated book. It's not. Just because you disagree with it doesn't mean it's outdated. Just because we look different in terms of how we dress and in terms of how we speak in the language that we're speaking now, doesn't mean that this book is not eternal and hasn't been around forever. It's easy to pick and choose. But that's just, we wouldn't be here having this conversation in this place right now if it wasn't for the people that decided not to pick and choose 2,000 years ago, and then the rabbis that followed and make sure. Right, we just celebrated Lag BaOmer. In Lag BaOmer, it's literally the celebration of the revealing of the inner Torah of the Kabbalah that Jews don't even realize how much of our day to day is inspired by the Torah that was revealed through the Zohar. Through the Kabbalah. A lot of the things that we do, a lot of the customs that we do, the prayers that we do, a lot of them are rooted in these mystical teachings that have become norm. And so when you separate it and you say, "Oh, that's Zohar, I don't learn that because it's whatever, there's a lot of taboo behind it.
Mhm.
You should be prepared to learn it. It's already a part of you as your Jewish identity.
Right.
You're already saying prayers that come directly from the Zohar. You're saying it Friday night. You're saying it Shabbat day. There's a lot of things that through Chassidut that are brought down. I'm going a little bit all over the place right now.
It's fine. It's
But,
fine.
like-
It's completely fine. It's interesting to me because I don't know like a lot about this, so I'm kind of
Yeah.
just like letting you speak. And have you studied Zohar?
You have to as well. If you've ever sat down to listen to a Chabad rabbi speak, he's talking Zohar, because it's through the Zohar is obviously the main text of Kabbalah. There's also one called Sefer Yetzirah, which we say comes from Abraham Avinu, and the Zohar was also given to Moshe Rabbeinu, but it was brought down. Kabbalah means lekabel, to receive. It was passed down the same way the Mishnah was passed down, the same way the Gemara was passed down. It was all oral. Right, and then when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote down the Zohar, that was the first time it was written down. But we had been speaking these ideas since forever ago.
So
Chabad, what I'm trying to say is like, fast forward 1600 years to the times of the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov brings down this concept of Chassidut, which is saying that like these things are close to you. And it's just a matter of bringing it down to this world a little bit more, so that it's a little more understandable, and using our words, and it's not just these lofty ideas of worlds and of lights, because when you read the Zohar directly, that's what you're reading about. You're reading about different worlds and these different holy lights that are coming down, and these different energies, and the sfirot, which make up a person and make up reality, and so it's very esoteric concepts that are hard to grasp. When you bring it down and you say, oh, it's actually, the Sfirot are not these things that are hanging out somewhere in another world. It's actually you, and your body actually makes up the entire length of the Sfirot, right? Like when you look at the map of a Sfirot, you can actually pinpoint where they actually exist within you. So it's not this crazy idea that's out of this world.
Wait, Sfirot are what?
Sorry, they're like. Sorry, yeah, you're right.
You're good.
Sfirot are like what you call is like these in a different world. The Havdil, it's not the same, but like chakras.
Okay.
That make up like energies in you. So we have one called Chesed, which is kindness, and Chesed is on one side, and then on the other side of Chesed, directly across, is Gevura, which means like restraint, like strength, and so. When you have this like energy of giving, kindness, that was represented by Abraham, who always loved to have guests.
Right.
And then you have Gevura, which is like, I can't always give. Sometimes I need to like hold back a little bit, right? And when you have that perfect balance between the two, it's called Tiferet, which is like beauty, grace, where it's just like perfection almost, balance.
Right.
And so that's when you feel like, a perfect example of that in day to day. It's like, let's say you've been going out a lot and you're tired. You've been giving of yourself a lot. You've been outside. You've been doing a lot. That's
general, just like be like helping is great, but being a yes man is like over the top.
Exactly.
So finding a good balance.
So you recognize, okay, I'm putting out a lot of chesed into the world. I'm being a good person, but I also need to think about myself for a second and think about my own mental health. So I'm gonna put a little gevura, and I'm gonna hold myself back, and then boom, that perfect point where you feel like, well, I know what I'm doing is right. That balance, then you're in tiferet. There's also Hod, there's Netzach, there's Yesod, there's Malchut. There's all these different.
We got to do a whole episode on this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the guy. I would go to Tzfat for this conversation. You just talk to my friend Eliyahu up there, because I'm not the guy.
But I have one last question about the Zohar. I learned, or I heard, I remember vaguely that like you shouldn't learn it, right? There's like a connotation like you shouldn't learn it unless you're like married or at least 40 years old or something like this.
Yeah. So that came around.
Where does that come from?
In the years following the Baal Shem Tov and what he brought down, what he revealed, and his students, the Maggid of Mezrich, and all the Chabad rabbis that came down in the lineage. There's also every Hasidic Rebbe basically comes through the school that was started by the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid of Mezrich. This is like in the 1700s in Eastern Europe.
The
Maggid of Mezrich. Maggid means like the teacher, of Mezrich is the town.
Okay.
Usually these Hasidic groups are named after the town where they started or where their Rebbe was from. So it was a groundbreaking concept where basically the Baal Shem Tov brought down that said that God doesn't exist just in the yeshivot. God isn't just in the Beit Knesset. God is with you when you're walking down the street, or when you go into the forest, or when you go into work, or when you're going to sleep, when you wake up in the morning. God is everywhere. And
Which is something that in modern Judaism is
thanks to
believed.
Chassidut, thanks to the
Yeah,
Baal Shem
wow,
Tov. We have
okay.
no idea, right? We have
Uh-huh.
no idea how much these ideas have spread through mainstream Judaism, Baruch Hashem. And it took a really long time. There was a big resistance at the time. So when these ideas started coming out, and the Baal Shem Tov is saying, actually, you don't need to spend all day in yeshiva, and he would encourage people to learn, but not everyone could read. Not everyone had access to yeshiva in his shtetl, in his like area in Ukraine and Eastern Europe. It wasn't like Vilna. It wasn't like Lithuania, where these guys could, like, they could be in the yeshiva, and they could be learning all day. It didn't exist. But a Jew is a Jew, and a Jew should have a relationship with Hashem. So how do we do that? Just close your eyes and talk to Hashem. Just close your eyes and talk to Hashem. There's so many beautiful Hasidic stories. There's a story of a kid who walks into shul and he's whistling, and everyone's getting upset. And the kid doesn't stop whistling, and immediately the Baal Shem Tov comes back from a trance, because he would enter these like ecstatic trances of prayer, and he said, because of the whistle, we were all forgiven, because it pierced through the gates of Shemayim, it pierced through the gates of heavens, and they felt that pure prayer, because the kid couldn't speak, he couldn't daven, he couldn't read.
So that was his way of
prayer was whistling.
Wow.
And so that,
which is super interesting, and I like have struggled in the past sometimes connecting through prayer, and when that happened to me, I like stopped praying for a bit, and then after a while I like picked up a Siddur and looked at the translation, and now when I like go to shul, I've been trying to like go to shul like on Shabbat, and I'll like read the translation to myself in an undertone. Obviously it's nice to be part of the minyan, and the songs are great. I like that aspect of community. And this is something I've shared with like people that have mentioned that they also like struggle to connect through prayer.
Yeah.
And obviously I think like the subconscious, or the way that I was brought up, and a lot of my friends were brought up as well, they're hesitant to accept that and be like, I'm not going to pray to God in English. Like,
right.
That's very Christian or very un-Jewish or whatever. I recommend it, and it's helped me regain my connection slowly. And
keep doing it.
Yeah.
I would encourage you eventually to come back to Hebrew.
No, I don't like pray in strictly English, but
I know.
I say prayers, but I also want to know what they mean. So obviously, you know, let's take a pretty basic prayer, the Shema.
Mm-hmm.
I've always known what it meant. I always knew it was.
But it's different when you read it in English.
But when you really see, you're just like describing love for God, and how I interpret it also is like, we are so small, and we are putting all our faith in a higher power, whatever higher power you believe in. Like, it's a nice prayer for me to say once a day in the beginning of my day, and really like helps my like anxiety levels lower, and just, stress levels lower for sure. When I reflect on the words I'm actually saying.
100%. Yeah, I didn't mean to say that like you shouldn't daven in English. Like, you should totally pray in whatever language. God created all languages, so of course He understands all languages. I'm saying that Lashon HaKodesh, I've done the same thing, and actually for years I would only do the Yom Kippur. The entire Yom Kippur I would do in English.
Really?
Every single word, even the ones that I knew. And then 2 years ago, I started reading the Hebrew, and I actually understood it perfectly.
Amazing.
Because I'd been reading it in English for so long.
Right.
So there's definitely a benefit to reading it in whatever language you're comfortable with. I do want to answer your question. In this period, it's revolutionary. He was a rebel. He wasn't seen. The Baal Shem Tov wasn't seen as like, now he's understood, and a lot of people even that used to be against are coming around little by little. But he was changing everything, just the way that Judaism was understood for a very long time. And what was created was a big rift within the Jewish community in Europe at the time. It was between the Hasidim and the Midnagdim, which Hitnaged in Hebrew means to be against. Right. So the people that were against, and the Hasidim.
What time period?
This is like the mid 1700s.
Okay.
During the French Revolution, right? In the Enlightenment, if you want to put it into historical context.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it created a lot of sinat chinam, of free hate, right, or baseless hatred between the Jewish community in Europe, to the point where you still feel some of those repercussions, and And so that was happening. And then at the same time, certain people started learning the Zohar, started learning Kabbalah, because it was finally being printed. It was finally being disseminated. The first printed version was in the 1500s through Italy. So up until then, it was just written by hand. Could you imagine finding like a handwritten Zohar from like the first century or second century? Like that would mamish be from
in Italian?
Like,
no.
No.
Oh,
I'm saying
okay.
it was Hebrew, but
Right.
there was a big community in Italy, of
Right,
course.
okay.
Like ever since the destruction of the temple.
Yeah.
I'm saying like that's how you know that what were they printing? Obviously,
Right.
they had been given something in order
Mhm.
to reproduce and print. Because some people might say, "Oh, the Zohar came around in the 1500s." It's like no, they didn't just make it up. It came down. It was brought down and passed through the sages. And so you have certain figures. The most infamous is Shabtai Tzvi, who start learning this, and they realize there's a lot of power, there's a lot of intention, there's a lot of good here. Practical Kabbalah is like scary stuff, where you could like really tap into some wild energies.
No, I
If
know.
anyone who's done like
know.
psychedelics, that's
Yeah.
like the closest you might have deal without even comparing it. That's like we can even like if I want to just say like practically how you can really understand like learning like the high levels of Kabbalah. That's what we're talking about. It's like you're changing nature almost.
So
you have to be really careful.
So that's why they say that you should be older.
Right.
And why marry?
So-
or did I just make that up?
So what happens with Shabtai Tzvi is it creates a big following,
Mm-hmm.
and he basically declares himself as the Mashiach, and he says he's going to bring everyone home to Eretz Yisrael. And so he's making a big ruckus, and he's creating a big following, and he's in I think he's in Istanbul at the time, and so the Ottoman Sultan takes him in, and he says like, listen, buddy, chill out. I need you to like relax, and also either convert to Islam or die. And that's what he does. He converts to Islam just like that. Shabtai Tzvi is gone. The Mashiach doesn't exist. And all these people that were depending on him, that were expecting him to actually take them to Israel, are left alone, depressed. And then there's a big, there's a big massacre that follows, and just all these different things happen around the same time. And so the sages of the time realize, okay, we need to put some. There's a concept in the Torah about putting a guardrail, putting a rail around the Torah, putting a
Mhm.
fence around the Torah. What does that mean? Practically, it means put a fence around your roof, so that if you're on the roof, you won't fall off. But metaphorically, with Torah, it means like create certain boundaries that will protect you from tapping into something you're not ready for, or really understanding something in the way that it's supposed to be understood.
Right.
And so that's why we have commentary, and that's why we have leaders and rabbis that tell us and guide us and that really understand it. And so one of the guardrails that was created was you should be 40 years old, which is the assumption is that by the time you're 40, you've learned Chumash, you've learned Navi, you've learned Gemara, you've learned Mishnah, you've learned some aspects of like Torah Shebechtav and Torah Shebal Peh, and now you're ready for this Masorah, this tradition that's been passed down.
Wow, that's crazy.
And so you have more of a vessel, you have more of a kli to receive these crazy lights, these crazy concepts that need context. They need context. But I was just having this conversation with my friend. I asked him exactly the same question that you asked him,
Mm-hmm.
and that you asked me.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, he's like, at the end of the day, all you need to do is open up the Zohar and read it. Even Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, even if you don't understand it, just open up and read it.
So for someone like me who like doesn't study Torah consistently,
Mm-hmm.
or like even in high volumes, I know you're not like a professional, but do you know if like you would recommend against, like, let's say going straight for the Zohar?
At this point, I wouldn't, but I would recommend that you would approach it with a study partner that knows it.
That knows the Zohar.
A study partner that knows Zohar or Chassidut.
Mhm.
Chassidut is the Zohar through the channel of the Rebbes.
Right.
So all these different Rebbes, if it's Chabad or if it's Breslov, or if it's Belz, or if it's Ger, whatever Hasidic sect is your flavor,
Mm-hmm.
pick one and learn Zohar through them, through their eyes of that
Right.
Rebbe or Rebbes, and don't worry, it won't catch that.
No, I was just
Oh,
looking.
okay.
Got distracted.
So that would be my recommendation. Definitely find a chavrusa, find shiurim, find classes. You can go on YouTube. It's crazy the amount of
I know.
Torah online.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
There's never in the history of the Jewish people, we've never been learning so much Torah,
Right.
and we need to like really be grateful for that. And that brings me back to a point I was trying to make before about combating anti-Semitism.
Mm-hmm. There we go. Tying it all
I'm
in.
bringing it back because I didn't finish what I was trying to say. The reason I don't think it's possible is because it's something that's out of our control, but something that is in our control is our ability to connect to ourselves as Jews. And that doesn't mean, after you listen to this, go sign up for yeshiva and flip out and become from. If that's what you want, please. But it means slowly do something that makes you feel more Jewish. And I think after October 7th, people really felt that. If it's putting on tefillin, or even if it's wearing the hostages, dog tag.
Yeah,
In a way, it's like
each person.
It feels like a kippah for the secular people. Like,
Mhm.
if it's lighting candles on Friday night, or if it's calling your parents, that's kibbud av va'em. Something that reminds you of Jewish, or learning a little bit about your history, about your own family's history. How many people can actually name 2 or 3 generations back, and really understanding where you come from and why you're here. Why does Israel matter? Why are we fighting for this land? Right? Like, if I'm a college kid on a campus and I'm very unaffiliated, but I feel targeted because I'm Jewish, what does it mean to be Jewish? Right? And don't let them tell you what it means to. Don't let them tell you what Zionism is, or what Israel is, or what Israel may or may not be doing. Find out for yourself.
I agree, and it's also one of the things that I like and appreciate about you and how you approach your Judaism, because you have your own way of doing it. But like you were explaining now, you don't tell anyone how to be a good Jew, right? So whatever way.
That's not up to me.
Exactly.
That's between the individual and God. And it's also between the individual and understanding that the tradition and the things that have been passed down to us through the rabbis, they didn't just wake up one day and decide to create these things in order to make our lives miserable, right? Because we both grew up in these modern Orthodox circles to an extent, I think.
Yeah.
And at least for me, it was very much like, at least I went to YHS. It was a little bit more of a religious school.
Yeah, mine was more like non-practicing,
traditional,
modern Orthodox, where we know all the traditions, but
right,
not
imposing.
Practicing, yeah.
So I think that's the other side of the spectrum, where it was 2 hands off, and mine was probably 2 hands on.
Yeah,
and I walked out of that not wanting anything to do with it,
even
though I had the base, and I walked out knowing. And in my gap year, I was the rabbi, even though I wasn't religious. They called me Rabbi Meir.
And you didn't have the beard yet, did you?
No, I did grow a beard in the middle.
You did.
Because that's like a thing when you get to the kibbutz part of the year.
Nice.
Yeah, but the point is you can't impose, you can't bring down from a top down. Judaism is both top down and bottom up. And the bottom up starts with you having that moment where you realize I need to pray in English. I need to pray in I need to do something because of what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Zat Hashem, I give everyone the chizuk and the blessing to figure out what it is makes you Jewish.
Yeah, I agree. We spoke a lot about Judaism, and I think it's important because it relates a lot to your brand. But I also want to focus more on your brand. And I wanted to ask, wait, did I ask you already about, do you plan on having a meme page again? Because I know you had one for a short while, which I like Jewish memes. I don't know. Yeah,
memes are such a beast. I love memes. Shout out to Low Effort Zionist Memes. That's my homie. I'm not gonna say his first name because he's a little incognito, but he's a really good guy. He's a mensch, and he's the best in Jewish memes.
Yeah. All right.
It's its own thing. It's its own thing, and we were trying to do it on the side. Your brother was running our page, and you have to really be on top of the news. You have to be first in order to be successful, because you know you can always jump on the meme trends, but then that you'll be jumping on the meme trend, or you could make the trend.
Right.
So I think that right now our focus is not that, but it would be a nice thing one day to
acquire a meme page maybe.
I would want to. Yeah,
right?
I've spoken to Laura for Zionist Memes multiple times.
Right.
We've done collabs.
Amazing.
Amazing. And for a while, I think before the war, I was hesitant because their page is very harif. It's very out there, and they don't really care. They're not PC, and
I love that though.
My page is in a way,
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm over it, and I'll put out a story where I'm like, where people can really hear my opinion.
Right.
But yeah, I think Jews should stop being so nice.
Yeah.
So I think Harif meme pages are fine.
Yeah.
That's
I
the
agree.
least we can do
I
at
like
this
dark
time.
humor in general as well, so I don't
Yeah.
know, make fun of anyone and everyone, and then apologize after if it's really that bad. But I don't think you have to apologize.
And to you.
And what's if there is to be on the negative side a little bit, what's the worst part of, or not the worst, maybe the hardest part of doing what you do?
I think the hardest part or the most challenging part is making time. Is making time, and then also being nice to yourself, because it's been a side hustle for 4 years. And to recognize that for a second and like realize that like it's not easy to sustain something for so long, and to be like, okay, like cool, we might have a bunch of things that we haven't shared yet. Like we've been doing a lot of lives on YouTube, which I recommend people check out, and we have so many clips about those lives. Like I want to be able to, I know the system. You create a long form piece of content, and then you funnel people in to watch it again through short reels or
that's what I'm gonna try to do
or
with
whatever
this
it is.
podcast.
Right.
Yeah, I hope it works.
And I've gotten a little bit stuck in that process of getting content out, because, you know, thank God, again, I have a full-time job, I have a social life, I'm trying to find my wife. If you're out there, what's up?
Hey.
I hope you're praying for me too. By the way, that's a hack I heard from a rabbi.
What?
I think Rav Meir Morgenstern, a big rabbi here in Jerusalem, he says you shouldn't pray that you find your wife, you should pray that she finds you.
I like that.
And it's a big shift in the way that we have this, you know, we pray for this. It's like opening the sea to meet your wife. So it's not easy. Like it's in the Gemara, it's compared to when the sea was opened up. Yeah. Like it's the same energies that were brought into the world when the sea split for the Jewish people. Is the same energy that's brought into the world when you're under the chuppah.
Yeah,
and that's like wild.
That is. I feel like this goes along with what you're saying, that when you're looking for your wife, it's not usually going to be what it's meant to be. I think,
or what you think it's going to be,
or what you think it's going to be, what you think you need. Maybe.
I wouldn't know,
right?
Maybe,
right. Maybe
so
future mayor would be better to speak on it.
This will be fun to watch later. I mean that your question was the most challenging part. I think it's going through life, you know, being in Israel, living by myself, making Aliyah by myself, and trying to build this like Jewish content hub or Jewish content organization, whatever it is, while also trying to build my life. It's not easy, you know, and thank God for Isaac and for Andy and for MK in South Africa, one of our writers, and all the different people that have been here with us in the journey, your brother included. Isaac loves talking about the process. I wish he was here for this, because he would be a great addition to this conversation. He loves talking about the process and how beautiful the process is. Sometimes we get so stuck on the end result, we forget that the process is actually really beautiful. Most of the time is the process. Most of the time when you're building something is building it. It's not, everyone just sees the post when it's perfect, and then even then I look at it and I'm like, oh crap, there's a few typos, and I put a slide in that it wasn't supposed to be there, and,
right,
and like,
right,
you know, like just like breathe through the process and be grateful that you're here and that you're doing it. And even when it's hard, and I'm talking to myself, I'm pumping myself up right now too, because like, you need it, you know, we need to be nice to ourselves.
This is good for me as well. I like this.
Yeah, trust the process, right?
And the end goal, I guess, I think you touched on it, but basically, I mean, you would love to do this full time. You would love for this to sustain you, and also build sub brands within your brand.
Yeah, I think you know, on a not a product level, but on like a
personal lifestyle,
personal like mission is to continue to educate, to continue to inspire. If it's through if it's through learning about an event in Jewish history or a particular figure in Jewish history, or if it's hopefully getting inspired by one of our Torah content. Also for my personal page, which we haven't even touched, but it's me. It's Jewish history guy. It's honestly more Torah than Jewish history, but that's just because that's just the path I'm taking, and I try to bring in Jewish history every now and then. So I think the goal on that level is like to continue to inspire, to continue to educate. So again, more of a process-minded goal. And when it comes to when it comes to just like us, I think to become a recognized Jewish education platform, not just an Instagram page.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're well on your way there. I don't know how you feel internally when you're looking at your stuff and reflecting on it, but from the outside looking in, your personal Instagram looks amazing. Your personal brand looks amazing. On this day in Jewish history, looks amazing. With the wide and volume of audience you've been able to attract, and I think if you keep doing what you're doing and obviously tweaking a little bit and getting better and loving the process, I think it can only get better and grow from here.
Amen.
Amen. And do you have a favorite Jewish historical figure or time period, or both, if they're different?
Time period, I would say there's a period in Israel in the 30s, at the same time as when the Nazis rose to power, that almost because of that, it was the fifth Aliyah. There was an influx of German Jews that moved to Israel. About 50,000 Jews were able to come to Israel, and most of these were like educated and across academia and across business sectors, and one of the particular sectors was architecture. So when you go to Tel Aviv, Tel Aviv is famous for the Bauhaus architecture that you see everywhere, the white city of Tel Aviv. That really only happens in the 30s, where the city blossoms. And when the whole world was going through a depression, Tel Aviv was actually booming because of this influx of money and because of this massive Jewish renaissance almost. And you had, none of them could anticipate what was about to happen in the 40s, but there's something really beautiful about the 30s in Israel and Tel Aviv particularly that I think, if I could go back in time, that would be one of them. Another one is Tzfat during the 1500s. There was a period where all these different Kabbalistic greats that we talk about now casually, like the Arizal or Moshe Alkabetz that wrote the Chadodi.
Yeah, I've never spoken about these great people, but
now you are. Or Moshe Cordovero, the Alshich, like these are the Beit Yosef, which is Rabbi Yosef Cairo. You've probably heard of the Shulchan Aruch.
Yeah,
all these people were together at the same time in Tzfat. Wow. And so to be walking those streets and you can't even imagine, that would be a dream.
Those are the favorite historical figures, I guess, then.
Not historic. Those are some of my top Jewish figures. I think historical figure. I mean,
Jewish historical though.
Jewish historical, right? For me, it's the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I think that we take for granted the way that he changed the Jewish world, continues to change the Jewish world through his students and through the impact that he has on my personal life and on, I know, so many people. And we honestly, you can't even put into words. Like in some places Judaism is Chabad because they've reached corners of the world to be there for Jews, for maybe one Jew to walk through on a trip and to be there for them, and even in populated places here like Israel, I'm saying populated in terms of Jewish population, or in America, they do so much, and it's because of the Rebbe's leadership. It's because of the teachings that he brought down. And for me, it's crazy that somebody that I never met could have such an impact in my life, direct impact in my life. And so, and he was within our generation. So it's not like he's so historical, but he is because he's not with us anymore. And
what years did he live?
1902 to 1994.
Wow.
So this will be actually his 30th anniversary of his passing this year.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Not nice. That.
No, I mean,
but like that's
no,
that's powerful.
in a
That's
way,
powerful.
in a way, Judaism,
Yeah.
like we believe that when somebody passes on, their soul is now even more present,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, there's something very, very powerful about the physical, the soul being in the physical in the body and transmitting what it did when he was here with us physically, and now it's a different now we're living in a new world where
Right.
it's just the soul, and so yeah, we could talk about the Rebbe for a long time if you want.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I didn't want to cut you
keep
off.
it going.
No, I guess the last couple of questions, or if you want to share with me, because I don't know as much as maybe I pretended to know about your brand, and if you want to share with whoever's maybe the 2 or 3 people that are going to watch this until the end,
Yeah, right.
the different ways that they can get involved in your community, whether
Mhm.
it's like writing articles for your website or joining the communities,
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, you can find our website at jewishoriginal.com. You can join the community. There's a join button there. You can join. We have a WhatsApp group where we share about events and upcoming interviews and live streams. If you do want to write a post, I'm always open. You can message On This Day in Jewish History or Jewish History Guy, all 1H, and I will probably see that and eventually get back to you. If you want to collaborate on a post, we're open to talking about that. If you have any ideas for how we can grow or how we can make this better and how we can inspire more Jews to be Jews, just hit me up. You can email us at hello@jewishoriginal.com, or you can send me a DM. I'm happy to have conversations.
Yeah, and you can DM me, and I can put you in
Yeah.
contact with the mayor as well. To end it off, I guess one piece of advice, even though you've given me a lot of good advice before we started recording, throughout our recording as well, for people that wanna start something, and you can make it specific to Olim in
Mhm.
Israel. You can make it generic to anyone who has an idea and is being hesitant to start. Wisdom.
Just do it. Right, the Shia LaBeouf meme comes to mind. Just do it. You can get stuck in the what if forever. I get stuck in the what if, and I'm doing it. Like, here's what it is. You have to ask yourself, what's stopping you? Oh, how are people going to react? What are people going to say? You know what? If you don't share it, first of all, you'll never know if those same people might have a positive impact. Second of all, who cares? Literally, who cares? And third of all, if you don't do it, then you're guaranteeing failure. I spoke about this time period of the 30s. I have a whole show idea, TV show idea that I've had ruminating in my brain for like 3 years, specifically about this time period of Tel Aviv and Bauhaus and German Jews, and it's connected to the Holocaust, and it's connected to the fight for independence in Israel, and I want to make it like kind of a little bit like Midnight in Paris, where you have all these different historical figures, not showing up as a time travelers, but like showing up because they actually lived at the time. And it's just been stuck in my brain, and I've talked about it, and I have a bunch of Google Docs, and I've read a few long things about screenwriting and all these different things, and it eats at me a little bit. And Isaac reminds me sometimes. He's like, how's it going with your show? And I'm like, it's exactly where it is, just sitting in my brain. And it hurts a little bit to know that this really beautiful, cool concept is unalive right now. I don't want to say dead because that's such a negative word. It's just unalive. It's still in conception.
Pre-birth.
It's still in conception.
It's okay.
And so I know what it's like. If you're a creator and you're thinking about an idea and it's just stuck in your head. Everyone, if you're a creative person, you go through this all the time, even after you've started. So recognize that it will continue to happen, and it's a constant. It's like teshuva. Doesn't just happen one day. It's every single day. Every single day you have to work. You have to work on your relationship with yourself. You have to work on your relationship with Hashem. It doesn't just, there's no magic wand, but it all starts with doing it. Just getting up and doing it.
I agree. And I want to share, I guess, with you and with the camera as well, that I don't really know what I'm doing with this podcast. I'm just recording.
We're here though.
I'm gonna chill, edit stuff, and put something together, and hopefully people watch it. And my goal with it is to highlight the people I'm interviewing, show that anyone can do it, and also meet people and have cool conversations. So, you know, everyone that I'm meeting, I mentioned this to you before, but if we don't like how it turns out, we don't have to post it. My goal isn't to post it and get a lot of likes and a lot of followers and a lot of views. My goal is just to spread people's vision, people's personalities in a very genuine and authentic way, and I hope I do that. So thank you for talking to me, chilling, and I have to come to Jerusalem more often. It's a good time.
Thank you for watching.